Welcome back, everybody, to the third and final segment of episode 5 of Rock Radio. I just I didn't mind to tease you there with the one band that I noticed wasn't on the list of 2020. I have to stop doing that. Nominees, but I think really should be, and that is, if you know me, obviously, Oasis. It always comes back to Oasis for me, and they are in fact eligible in this induction cycle because their debut album, Definitely Maybe, I believe the cutoff is at least 25 years, and I believe it has been 25 years since Definitely Maybe came out, but they didn't make it in the first round of inductions. And I, as unfortunately has been the case a few times in this show, don't have enough knowledge on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as an institution and as a functioning organization. I don't know if they did this because they just don't think that Oasis is deserving of a first year of eligibility ballot, or if it's a matter of the Gallagher brothers and their extremely public rivalry and dislike of each other. Because if that's the case, and receiving the award would become then a very large problem, because they, in all likelihood, would not want to appear on stage together. But you can make the case that both Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher are equally deserving of that award on behalf of Oasis, because without either one of them, Oasis really wouldn't exist. Noel being the lyricist and guitarist, and Liam obviously being the frontman and vocalist. So if that's the case, it's unfortunate, and I want to say I understand, but I have to think that there's some kind of workaround. That, quite frankly, it's just sad if the Gallagher brothers can't put their differences aside for 10 minutes and to accept an award, and they could like decline to perform together on stage because they absolutely wouldn't want to do that. And if that's the case, it's just sad, because you hate to see, unfortunately, so many brothers that get into the music industry together and form bands and get big together. It really sours those relationships, sometimes to the point of disrepair, as seems to be the case with the Gallaghers. But if it's a matter of perceived worth, then obviously I could go on a tirade because of what Oasis means to me and what I think that what they've done for me and what they've done for music as a whole, regardless of whether or not you might agree or disagree with that. But I think it's hard to make the case that Oasis doesn't deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because I talked to them, as I always seem to work in my 90s love into these shows that I did here with Soundgarden and Chris Cornell. Well, everything in the 90s was happening over in America, with the hotbed being in Seattle. Way over across in Manchester, Oasis was bursting out into the scene with a much more optimistic and jangly and bright sound, and that really caught everybody's attention. And then they were and are pretty much gods in Manchester, and if they could get big enough to the point where, when a certain genre of rock music was so overwhelmingly Americanly dominated, if they could break through and become mainstream in America and around the world as well, I think that says quite a bit. And obviously, and they weren't just a flash in the pan like so many bands of that era were. Definitely Maybe, What's the Story, Morning Glory, Be Here Now. All of these were just phenomenal albums, and every single one was met with incredible reception from the general public and critics alike. And quite frankly, they're just you know icons of music and of English music, which obviously is a very big deal, because given the size of that nation proportional to others in the world, the amount of incredibly talented musicians they've produced is just mind-blowing and staggering, and Oasis is very obviously among those bands. And so if it's a matter of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame not wanting to deal with the messiness of a Gallagher brother reunion, then my answer to that is unfortunate, but I can understand. But even if there's a way to just induct them without having it be a big whole ceremony, if they could just like receive it as a formality. Oh, actually, that makes it sound invalid, not a formality, but if they didn't have to, make a big thing of it, and they could just be inducted, without the the whole, like, flashy performance and being on stage to accept it, because I think they definitely deserve it. But if it's a matter of worth, then I'd like to have words with whoever is in charge of selecting bands for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know where to find me, the basement of the Iona Union. And, next year, a second very important band for me is eligible in the they'll be eligible in the 2021 induction, so they'll be picked in 2020. So, yeah, next year, it would be the Foo Fighters, and maybe even more so than Oasis. I think you could make the case that they're deserving because Dave Grohl is already a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Nirvana, and I think he's a part of the organization in some capacity where he picks uh, bands to be in it or something like that. And if that's the case, I know my boy Dave voted for Oasis because he's vocally expressed his like for the band. So I don't have any doubt that if people didn't want Oasis in, that Dave was a part of that. But anyway, um, yeah. So I really hope to see Foo Fighters in on first ballot in the next induction ceremony because to do what Dave Grohl did with that band and rise from the ashes of Nirvana, it should have been, for all intents and purposes, impossible for him to achieve remotely the same level of success, let alone the you can make the case increased level of popularity and longevity in the mainstream of rock music that he did with Foo Fighters. And quite frankly, save for my brother, who seems to dislike a lot of the music I listen to, and a few other people here and there. I've never really met somebody who listens to rock music and dislikes the Foo Fighters. They're one of the most easily accessible and enjoyable bands around, and that's why I think that it's a shame Oasis isn't in this year, and it'll be an even bigger shame. I know it's a lot. It's a lot to make me think something's a bigger shame than Oasis not getting their due respect, but it'll be even a bigger shame, honestly, if the Foo Fighters don't get in next year's selection of nominees. And so that's going to be it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening and having me talk your ear off about very specific musical topics for an hour. I'll look forward to doing it again next week, and I'll hopefully see you then.